Hey guys, Desolator Magic back with a shocking revelation! That's not really shocking, it's not really a revelation, but it's just something interesting you may not have picked up on. I've got to start at the beginning with this one. A lot of people do not like Modern right now, or they don't like Modern in general. Or it's more like they love Modern because, hey, it's another format to play, they can use their older cards, and they can build just really wacky, wild decks. But they don't like Tier 1 Modern because it's just too powerful and impossible to compete with. Now, Wizards doesn't give a crap because that's just how Modern is. In fact, that's how Legacy and Vintage are. This is how the older formats are. If you up the pool by 30 times or whatever it is compared to Standard, then you're just going to get more powerful decks. That's just how it works. So if you're not into super powered decks, you play Standard. But that said, they do still want people to watch the streams of all the big Modern tournaments, the big national tournaments, and Modern is really popular, so if people are just like, oh, I hate it, I'm ignoring it, they're missing out on part of their product, of Wizards' actual MTG product, which is not good in general. So why do people hate watching it? Well, it's because people are playing Solitaire, as most people have called it, which, believe it or not, is actually a format. It's the only format where you play completely by yourself. It's funny, you guys should look it up. But yeah, it's basically, I'm waiting for my combo to go off. If it does, I win the game. If it doesn't, I lose. And when two people are trying to do it, it's just stupid. And then it's even better when it's like, oh, you get one shot at your combo, and I used whatever, some counterspell. I used negate, and I stopped it. Wow, go me. That was so exciting. I mean, it's like a boxing match where they run out and hit the guy in one punch and then he's down and it's like, wow, that was so amazing. What a great match. No, it wasn't. What is wrong with you? Nobody wants to watch that. And I think a lot of really long time, big popular analysts are on the same page. Like, for example, MTG Degree and Rogue Deck Builder, two of my favorite channels. You guys should definitely check them out. I've got 2 links down in the description to the videos where they're saying exactly my feelings on Modern as well. So we're all on the same page there, that's for sure. By the way, every time I say I don't like the current state of Modern, every time those guys say they don't like the state of Modern, they get like 30 to 50% thumbs down, and so do I. That is utterly ridiculous. So you pro wannabe just copycat net decking losers who think, oh, you just can't stand losing to these. These are just good decks and you don't have the money to build them. No, we're coming at you with actual logic and saying, this is why it's bad. This is why it's not exciting. This is why Wizards is losing customers. This is why people aren't watching the live streams. It is a logical, cold assessment of what is wrong, not us whining about losing to Affinity and Living End, which I do that all the time, but come on, I'm not whining about me losing, I'm whining about it being an unfair deck that nobody wants to play against and it's ruining the format. There's a difference, and if you can't see it, then stay out of the comment section because I'm not interested in anything that you have to say, and from the looks of some of the comments that they had to leave on their own videos, I think they have a similar opinion. So now that the stuck-up copycat posers have left my channel forever, hopefully, one can only dream, let's talk about what Wizards is doing to fix the problem. So it's the same 5 or 6 decks, arguably. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's like 6, maybe 7 decks, but those are the same decks that have been winning Modern for years and years and years. I mean, it changes a little bit and some stuff gets kicked out due to banning, of course, but for sure for the last year or two, it's been just the same decks over and over and over. I mean, if I go up to somebody right now and say, hey, Tron, Affinity, Infect, Burn, what am I talking about? Oh, they'll say, oh, the top tier decks. Yeah, okay, the top of Modern. Yay. And I probably miss 1 or 2. It varies based on cards and all that stuff, but it's just the same crap over and 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 over, and that is so stupidly boring. It's boring to play, it's boring to watch, and Wizards knows this. They have addressed that as they call it, a low variety or low variance of decks is bad for the format. So if you're going to go down in the comment section and say, oh no, it's great, it's having the top decks, there's always got to be 3, 4 top decks and that's it, that's the way it should be. Well, I disagree with you, pretty much everybody else disagrees with you, and Wizards disagrees with you. So in other words, you're wrong. The word on the street and the word on the internet here is that Wizards is doing absolutely nothing to fix it. They're just going to keep saying, okay, as soon as a really good deck comes a little bit too powerful, we're going to hit it with the banhammer and bash it back down, and it's always going to be Infectron, Affinity, and all the other crap that people keep seeing forever. It's just absolutely forever those are going to be the decks. And if anything happens to sort of just beat them, then it will be removed from the format. As it turns out, that's not actually true. So in their latest ban announcement, where they said that they're banning, obviously, basically Eldrazi. I mean, yeah, you could still play Eldrazi, but come on, tier 2 plus. They're actually just banning Ivugan. But anyway, they said And this is interesting because I've been saying this the whole time, so everybody who left a thumbs down on my video that said, did Wizards know about this ahead of time? It literally says word for word in the press release. When BFZ and OGW were in development, the development team knew that Eldrazi creatures in the block would be more powerful in Modern because of those 2-mana lands. So they knew about the lands, they knew about the combo, they knew it would be powerful. They knew it. They knew all about it. They did not miss it. So then they go on to say that while there was some risk that Eldrazi decks would be too strong, there was also the possibility that a fun new competitive deck would emerge. Now that is the key. They also went on to say that it is very difficult to know how strong a deck will turn out to be before holding high-level tournaments, and much of the enjoyment of Magic for players is seeing that play out. So they're kind of stating that, yeah, it would be nice if a new deck came around and started actually winning, but it's not like, win on turn 1 travesty, it'll just be a good competitive fun deck. So they're actively trying to promote and allowing to go through as new printed cards, new Modern decks that might compete with the current ones out there. Now, if you think that's just a conspiracy theory or just my opinion on it, you got to read what they said about the 2 cards that were unbanned. To help promote blue decks, because blue decks are absolutely pathetic, across the board pathetic in Modern. Even Merfolk is really, it's a good deck, but it loses to way too much stuff. But just even blue-white control, it's annoying, it's a little too OP, but most people don't play it because it doesn't actually win. So to help bring the color blue as a legitimate color back into Modern, they unbanned Ancestral Vision. So they said, quote, to allow for an increase in the number of blue-based control or attrition decks, we are unbanning Ancestral Vision, which that really helps. If you know my Beholder deck, it uses Isochron to just replicate a spell because you're going to burn out your hand and then it uses Hidden Draw and all that. So, hey, Ancestral Visions, it's a lot simpler. Honestly, that card should go in Beholder, but I don't know. I don't think blue attrition is quite what I would call that. It's basically anti-magic jam everything. I hope they don't cast anything before turn 2, which is unrealistic. So then we go to Sword of the Meek and its ridiculous loop with Thopter Foundry. They claim that they wanted it to be an alternative win condition in Lantern Control, which is, quote, powerful when unexpected, but not currently a large part of the metagame. So they're taking a deck that's pretty good, called Lantern Control, and jacking it up just a little bit to be on par with, old-time stuff like Tron and Affinity and Infect. So if you take all 3 of these into account, what they're actually trying to do is boost up a couple pretty good tier 2 decks to tier 1 because there's only a couple tier 1 decks and they keep winning tournaments over and over and over. And they're really completely correct in saying that people love it when a brand new deck comes out and just comes out of nowhere and just blows everyone out and wins a tournament. Except Eldrazi. I don't think anybody was real happy about that one. I thought it was funny, but I wasn't playing in the tournament. I wouldn't have thought it was funny if I was playing in the tournament. And let me just say that finally, in the last couple weeks, a lot of people who have seen the leagues and the tournaments and all that, they've seen decks they've never heard of go top 8 because Eldrazi is so disruptive it's screwing with everything. It can beat the tier 1 decks that are just gimmicky, stupid, repetitive crap that people have been playing forever. So when people stopped playing that, it's opened up the door to some second-rate decks that are really, 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 really good. They would normally be tier 1, except that they lose specifically to the current tier 1 decks. So the whole meta went into like a washing machine and just twisted around and went completely nuts. But it was nice to see some alternative deck ideas doing really, really well. Although still, Eldrazi just dominated everything. So in summary, Wizards is purposely trying to shove more decks into the tier 1 status just to up the pool and make it more interesting to play and more interesting to watch. And it might honestly even bring down the cost of cards a little bit because everybody won't say, oh, I have to build Infect, I have to build Storm, I have to build Burn, I have to build Affinity, or I have to build Tron, or I will lose. Once you take that buying pressure off of the supply, you'll actually be able to, afford cards reasonably and play Modern with a very, very, very competitive top tier deck. So they tried to sort of come out of nowhere a little bit with Eldrazi. I mean, Eldrazi was a modern play deck a long time ago. And just take that and say, okay, now it's a competitive tier 1 deck. It's really aggressive, really fast. We've got a new tier 1 deck. And then they basically said, oops, it's a little too powerful. Whoops, my bad. But at least they're trying. And then they're unbanning cards that specifically work in like tier 1.5 decks. So they're real close to tier 1, but people don't play them that often. And they're upgrading them to just be dead even with tier 1, hopefully, without going overboard. And that's a lot easier to do than trying to come up with something almost from scratch. So it is a good thing overall. I mean, Wizards is really, really smart some of the time. When they try to fix something, they usually find a way to do it. Like card availability in Modern. Boom, Modern Masters. I mean, when there's a problem, they will find a creative way to fix it. A lot of people get in a room and have to agree on it first, and then they let it go public. So that's my little intel on what they're trying to do, their little top secret corporate policy. I will actually admit, too, that I think this might be a little bit smarter of a strategy than my proposed strategy, which went over just absolutely great in that video about how to fix Modern. If you're not familiar, my strategy is take all the tier 1 decks and ban them all. Because then you'll instead of like 4 or 5 decks, you'll have like 50 decks that are tier 2, and who knows what people will be playing. So you power down the whole format, and that'll up the variety of decks. Unfortunately, you'll take a bunch of $1,000 decks and make them worthless and piss off like literally every pro player ever. But hey, sometimes you gotta rip off the band-aid. It's gonna hurt for a little bit. People are gonna be real pissed, but then you finally fix the problem. So I was about to say, we'll see if it works out. Yeah, we'll see if the Eldrazi idea, unleashing that onto Modern, works out. It didn't, so I'm not sure they quite have the math and capabilities to dial in a perfect tier 1 deck and add that to the pool, but we'll see. You never know. At least they're trying. I'll see you guys next video.